Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have another episode in our Spoiler Spotlight series in which I talk about, well, spoilers and tell you what my thoughts are on them. But before that, just a quick reminder to click subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and your support means everything to me.
And today we're going to be talking about Delney Streetwise Lookout. For 2 colorless and 1 white, it's a legendary creature, Human Scout 2/2, with creatures you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater, and if an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. So wow, this is a really powerful effect. As we're seeing at the moment from the ridiculous price of Roaming Throne, having cards that get to double up on triggers can be really powerful, particularly when they don't specify what card of trigger they're doubling, and this doesn't. It's going to double every kind of trigger. That includes ETB triggers, combat damage triggers, attack triggers, death triggers, and everything else in between. So that's obviously great. There is a restriction, of course, which is that it can only affect creatures with power 2 or less, but that's still a whole lot of very powerful triggers. A card that immediately came to mind for me was Bygone Bishop. You get to double up on the clue token generation from that, which is obviously very nice, but honestly there's so many more different things, and white has a lot of ways to draw cards these days, so that's going to double up most of those card draw effects, because a lot of the time they're stapled onto low power creatures. The thing is though that it doesn't only do that. It doesn't only have to be a commander. You can put it in the 99, which is where I think this is going to particularly shine, because think about this, for example, in an Orzhov Aristocrats deck. Almost all of the Aristocrats payoff cards have power 2 or less. We're talking Zulapur Cutthroat, Blood Artist, Elas Ilkor, all sorts of different things of that nature. It doesn't even need to be in white-black. So you have an Aristocrats deck that happens to make a lot of Devil tokens. This suddenly becomes very powerful in that because all of those Devil tokens are going to trigger their death triggers twice. So this is really good in the 99 of those kind of decks, but again, that's not even all it does. It also comes with a whole other ability, which is actually a lot more powerful than it might initially seem. It says creatures you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. So that's going to mean that if you have creatures with asymmetrical power and toughness, for example, something with 2 power but 3 toughness, it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to effectively kill that in combat, because it's only going to be able to block it with creatures with power 2 or less. That means that it's going to take at least 2 creatures to take it down, which effectively gives the creature menace, but it's a very selective menace because it can only be blocked again by creatures with power 2 or less. That means that in a lot of board states, this can give your creatures unblockable or close to it, which is very strong. So that also leads me to think that this is going to do well in decks that want to trigger on combat damage effects, because it's going to help them get through, and then it's going to double the trigger when they do get through. On top of that, it's got the best possible wording, which is it doesn't trigger only once per turn or anything like that. So I think we have all the makings for a staple here. My only issue with this card is that it's a mythic. I don't really understand why it had to be, and it's going to drive the price up unnecessarily, because I do see this card seeing play in all sorts of different decks. Again, something we haven't even talked about is if your commander has power 2 or less and has any sort of triggered ability, this is going to double your commander's abilities. That means that any deck in white that fits that specification is going to want this card, which means that the price is definitely going to remain high. In the future, I really hope Wizards would print these kind of cards at rare or uncommon instead of at mythic, because it just makes them unnecessarily chase, and this is definitely going to be very expensive. So there you have it. Those have been my thoughts on this new spoiler. What do you think about this card? Please let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.